The hall of the Varelian Union Station was built to impress and intimidate at the same time. Tall crystal pillars curved toward the ceiling like frozen light, and soft blue energy flowed through the walls. Alien delegates from dozens of species stood in ordered lines, their eyes fixed on the lone human standing at the center of the chamber. Elias Kane stood straight, even though his body ached, and his uniform was torn and stained from the battle only hours earlier. He was not a tall man by human standards, and among the aliens he looked almost fragile. Still, there was something about the way he held himself that made the room quieter than it had been moments before. Only a day ago, the border colony of Lathrix had been moments from destruction. A rogue fleet had broken through Varelian defenses, using tactics no one had expected. Panic had spread through the system. The Varelian commanders had frozen, bound by protocol and fear of political consequences. Elias had not frozen. He had taken a small human patrol ship, one never meant for large combat, and flown it directly into the enemy formation. He used unpredictable maneuvers, cutting engines at impossible moments, hiding in debris, and striking where no commander would expect a ship to be. He sent false signals, jammed communications, and forced the enemy to turn on each other. It should not have worked. By all logic, it could not have worked. But humans had never survived by logic alone. By the time Varelian reinforcements arrived, the rogue fleet was in chaos. The colony was saved. Thousands of lives were spared, and Elias Kane was pulled from his damaged ship barely conscious, smiling like someone who had simply finished a difficult job. Now he stood before the highest authority of the Varelian Union. At the front of the hall was Lady Sarava. She was taller than Elias, her form graceful and controlled. Her skin shimmered like polished silver-blue stone, and her dark eyes reflected light in ways that made them seem deeper than they should be. She wore the ceremonial armor of a Varelian commander, marked with symbols of rank and responsibility. She looked at Elias not with cold judgment, but with careful curiosity. "Human Elias Kane," Sarava said, her voice calm and clear, translated perfectly into human language. "By the laws of the Varelian Union, a life debt is owed. You acted without obligation, without command, and without promise of reward. Such actions must be answered." The room remained silent. Sarava continued, "You may request one reward. It will be granted, so long as it does not threaten the existence of the Union." Elias swallowed. He had expected this question. He had been thinking about it since waking up in the medical bay. Humans nearby expected him to ask for protection treaties, technology access, or military rank. The Varelians expected something similar. That was how the galaxy worked. Acts of bravery were traded for power. Elias did not want power. He lifted his head and met Sarava's eyes. "I want you." A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. Translators paused, then confirmed the meaning. Murmurs spread among the delegates. Some reacted with anger, others with confusion. A few even showed fear. Sarava did not move. Her expression did not change, but something subtle shifted in her eyes. "You must clarify," she said. Elias spoke carefully. "I don't mean ownership. I don't mean control. I mean, I want to know you. I want the chance to stand beside you, not below you or above you. I want what humans ask for when they stop pretending they want something else." The hall grew even quieter. Varelians did not understand such requests. Their society was built on distance, on roles and structure. Emotional closeness was considered dangerous, something that clouded judgment. To ask for connection instead of advantage was unheard of. Sarava raised one hand, silencing the council before they could speak. She studied Elias for a long moment. "Your request is irregular," she said. "By our law, I must consider it." She turned slightly, signaling the end of the ceremony. "You will be escorted to your quarters. The council will deliberate." Elias nodded. He had said what he meant. Whatever happened next was out of his control. That night, the station was quiet. Elias sat alone in his assigned room, the hum of the station filling the silence. He wondered if he had gone too far. If he had misunderstood the moment. A soft chime sounded at the door. Elias frowned and stood. He had not been expecting anyone. The door slid open. Lady Sarava stood there, without armor, without guards. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You came," Elias said quietly. "Yes," Sarava replied. "Our law required me to decide. But I chose to come without witnesses." She stepped inside. The door closed behind her. Elias did not move closer. He did not smile or reach out. He simply waited. Sarava noticed. "You are not reacting as others would," she said. Elias shrugged slightly. "You're not a prize. You're a person. I didn't ask for you to be handed over. I asked for a chance." Sarava considered this. "Among my people, rewards are claimed, taken, used. Among mine," Elias said, "the things that matter most only mean something if they're given freely." Silence settled between them, but it was not uncomfortable. Sarava finally spoke again. "When you flew into that battle, you knew you might die. Yes. You gained nothing from it. Yes. Why?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because if I didn't act, people would die. Humans don't always win because we're stronger. We win because we don't wait for permission to do the right thing." Sarava looked at him with something close to wonder. "This connection you seek," she said slowly, "it would disrupt our politics. It would create fear. It would force change." Elias nodded. "Then maybe it's needed." Sarava stepped closer. Still, Elias did not reach for her. Finally, she extended her hand, palm open, a Varelian gesture of trust. "Then let this be the beginning," she said. "Not as a reward, as a choice." Elias gently placed his hand in hers. Somewhere in the vast station, unseen by most of the galaxy, something quietly shifted. Not because of weapons or power, but because a human had dared to ask for something no one else ever had, and an alien commander had chosen to knock on his door. The next morning, the Varelian Union Station did not feel the same. Elias could sense it even before he left his quarters. The corridors were quieter, but not calm. Guards stood at intersections where none had been before. Conversation stopped when he passed. Eyes followed him, human and alien alike. News traveled fast in space stations. Someone had seen Lady Sarava enter his quarters. Someone had spoken. Someone had been afraid. Elias walked with steady steps, his hands open and visible. He did not want anyone to think he was hiding something. Humans had learned long ago that fear grew fastest in silence. Across the station, Lady Sarava stood before the Varelian High Council. The chamber was smaller than the ceremonial hall, built for argument rather than honor. Tall seats curved around a central platform, each occupied by a counselor marked with symbols of age and authority. "You violated protocol," one counselor said, his voice sharp. "You went alone. You exposed yourself to influence." Sarava did not lower her gaze. "I exposed myself to truth." Another counselor leaned forward. "The human asked for you as a reward. That alone is an insult." "No," Sarava replied calmly. "It is confusion. Humans do not always speak with the same meanings we expect. And yet you went," a third counselor said. Sarava paused. In Varelian culture, pauses mattered. They showed intention. "Because he did not claim," she said. "He waited. He did not demand, threaten, or bargain. He treated me as an equal when he held no power to do so." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "That is precisely the danger," the first counselor said. "Humans influence through emotion, through unpredictability." Sarava's voice remained steady. "That unpredictability saved Lathrix. Our calculations failed. His instincts did not." Silence followed. Meanwhile, Elias reached the human diplomatic wing. Ambassador Reed, an older woman with tired eyes and a sharp mind, was waiting for him. "You caused quite the storm," she said, folding her arms. Elias sighed. "I figured. Do you understand what you've done?" she asked. "You didn't just ask for an alien commander. You challenged how this entire alliance works." "I didn't mean to challenge," Elias replied. "I meant to be honest." Reed studied him. "That's what scares them." She gestured for him to sit. "Some humans are angry. They think you risked our leverage." Some aliens are furious. They think you crossed a line that shouldn't exist. Elias nodded slowly. And you? Reed smiled faintly. I think you reminded the galaxy that we're human. The station's alarms did not sound. That would have been too obvious. Instead, systems began to fail quietly. Doors delayed. Lights flickered. Communications dropped for seconds at a time. Sarava noticed first. She had lived her life reading patterns, and this pattern felt wrong. This is not random, she said to her aide. Increase internal security. Quietly. At the same time, Elias felt it too. A human sense, hard to explain. Something in the air felt tight, like a held breath. He was walking back toward his quarters when a maintenance drone hovered too close, its movements just slightly off. Elias stopped. The drone stopped too late. He moved. The drone exploded behind him, throwing him forward. He hit the floor hard, ears ringing. Smoke filled the corridor. Guards rushed in seconds too late. Across the station, Sarava felt the shock through the structure. Her heart raced, a rare thing for her people. Where? She demanded. Human sector, came the reply. She did not wait for orders. Elias was on his feet when Sarava arrived, his face bruised but his eyes focused. When he saw her, something in his posture eased. You shouldn't be here, he said. You were targeted, she replied. That makes it my concern. Investigations began immediately. Evidence pointed not to a foreign enemy, but to a coalition of extremists, both Varelian and non-aligned species who believed humans were too disruptive to be trusted. Elias had become a symbol. Symbols were dangerous. The message was clear. Step back, or be removed. The council reconvened under emergency conditions. Pressure mounted to send Elias away, for his own safety. It was a polite exile. Sarava listened to the arguments, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. If you remove him, you confirm their fear. You teach them that intimidation works. And if we keep him, a counselor snapped, we invite further attacks. Sarava turned. Then we face them. The room fell silent. Elias, unaware of the full debate, sat in a secure room under guard. He replayed the explosion in his mind, not with fear, but with understanding. This was bigger now. A guard opened the door. Sarava entered. They want to send you away, she said. Elias smiled slightly. Figures. You are not afraid? She asked. I am, he admitted. But humans learned long ago that fear doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. Sarava studied him. If you stay, you will be in danger. Elias met her gaze. So will you. Yes, she said. And that matters to me. They stood in silence, the weight of choice pressing down. I didn't ask for this, Elias said quietly. For you to be attacked because of me. You did not cause this, Sarava replied. You revealed it. She turned toward the door. There will be a public session. They will ask you to speak. Not as a hero. As a problem. Elias exhaled. I'm better at fixing things than explaining them. Then speak as a human, Sarava said. It seems to be enough. The assembly hall filled again, this time with tension instead of celebration. Elias stood at the center, unarmed, unarmored. Accusations were made, warnings given, risks outlined. When it was his turn, Elias did not raise his voice. I didn't come here to change your culture, he said. I didn't come to take anything from you. I came because people were in danger. And I could help. He looked around the room. Humans don't pretend we're perfect. We argue. We fail. We make mistakes. But when we see someone standing alone against the dark, we step forward. He turned toward Sarava. I didn't ask for her because I wanted power. I asked because I saw someone who stood alone under responsibility. I thought, maybe we don't have to be alone. The room was silent. For the first time, some of the counselors looked uncertain. Outside the station, unknown to most, ships adjusted their positions, not to attack, to protect. Humans and Varelians alike had made quiet choices, and the galaxy waited to see what would happen when fear met something stronger than force. The station did not sleep after the public session. Even when the lights dimmed and most delegates returned to their quarters, tension stayed awake, moving through corridors and systems like a living thing. Elias stood by the wide viewport in the human wing, watching distant stars slide slowly past. He felt small compared to the vast dark outside, but he had felt that way his whole life. Humans learned early that being small did not mean being helpless. Behind him, Ambassador Reed spoke quietly. "You shifted the room," she said. "Not enough to win. Enough to make them hesitate." "That's something," Elias replied. "It is," Reed agreed. "But hesitation makes dangerous people impatient." She was right. Across the station, in a sealed chamber far from public eyes, a group of figures gathered. They came from different species, different alliances, but shared the same fear. Humans changed things by being unpredictable, and change threatened those who had built power on control. "The council delays," one of them said. "The commander hesitates. Then we force a decision," another replied. Plans that had been waiting quietly were set into motion. Sarava sensed it before any alarm sounded. She was walking alone through an inner corridor when her personal display flickered, then went dark. The air felt wrong. Too still. She stopped. The lights cut out completely. Sarava did not panic. Virelians were trained from birth to remain calm. She activated a manual light on her wrist and moved forward carefully. The attack came without warning. A security unit burst from a side passage, weapons raised, not station guards. Their markings were altered, identities masked. Sarava moved fast, faster than most expected from her kind. She took cover, returning controlled fire, retreating toward a junction. At the same moment, chaos erupted across the station. Power fluctuations spread, doors locked and unlocked at random. Communications filled with overlapping alerts. In the human wing, Elias felt the deck vibrate under his feet. "That's not maintenance," he said. Reed's expression hardened. "They're making their move." Elias did not wait for permission. He grabbed a communicator and ran. Security channels were jammed, but humans were good at working with broken systems. Elias rerouted through an old emergency band. One no one used anymore. "Sarava," he said, not knowing if she could hear him. "If you're out there, answer." Static filled the channel. Then, faint but clear, her voice came through. "I am under attack," she said. "Multiple hostiles." "Location?" Elias asked. She sent coordinates. Elias changed direction instantly. Human security tried to stop him, but he pushed past. "You won't get there in time," one shouted. "Watch me," Elias replied. He knew the station's maintenance paths better than most. Humans had helped build parts of it. And humans always memorized escape routes. Elias cut through narrow service corridors, climbed ladders meant for machines, and crawled through spaces barely wide enough for his shoulders. He did not think about fear. He thought about timing. Sarava's situation worsened by the second. The attackers moved with discipline. This was no random act. It was planned. She took a hit to her shoulder, pain flaring sharp and bright. She forced it down, focusing on staying alive. Then she heard footsteps from a direction she did not expect. A human voice shouted, "Down!" Elias burst into the corridor, sliding across the floor and firing a compact stun weapon he had taken from a guard. The pulse hit one attacker squarely, dropping them instantly. Another turned, startled by the speed and recklessness of the human charge. Sarava did not waste the moment. Together, they fought back to back, covering angles, moving without speaking. They did not need to plan. Instinct filled the gaps. The attackers fell back, realizing surprise was lost. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of emergency power. Sarava leaned against the wall, steadying herself. Elias stood in front of her without thinking, body positioned to shield her. "You should not have come," she said, breathing hard. "I know," Elias replied. "But I wasn't going to stay away." Security forces arrived moments later. Weapons raised, confusion clear on their faces. The attackers were gone, but the message was clear. This was no longer political pressure. It was war in everything but name. The station went into full lockdown. Investigations uncovered coordinated sabotage across multiple systems. Evidence pointed directly to high-ranking figures who had publicly spoken against human involvement. The council could no longer pretend this was a misunderstanding. Sarava stood before them again, her injured arm supported, but her posture unbroken. "They tried to kill a human under our protection," she said. "And they tried to kill me for standing beside him." The chamber erupted in voices. "This is proof," one counselor shouted. "Humans bring chaos." Sarava's eyes flashed. "No. This is proof that fear breeds violence." She turned slowly, meeting each gaze in turn. The human did not attack. He defended. He did not demand power. He refused to run. She gestured to the evidence displayed around the room. These conspirators feared change more than dishonor. That is not a human trait. That is a universal one. Elias was brought in under guard, but not as a prisoner. As a witness, he looked around the chamber, feeling the weight of history pressing down. "I won't pretend this is simple," he said when allowed to speak. "Humans complicate things. We always have." A few counselors scoffed. "But we also stay." Elias continued. "When it gets hard. When it gets dangerous. When it would be easier to walk away." He looked at Sarava. "You didn't have to stand with me. You chose to. That choice saved my life. I'm here because of it." He turned back to the council. "If that makes us a threat, then maybe the problem isn't humans." Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. A Virelian counselor rose slowly. One who had spoken little before. Old. Respected. "We built our strength on order," the counselor said. "On distance. It kept us safe for a long time." He looked at Sarava. "But safety has made us rigid. And rigidity breaks." He turned to Elias. "Humans bend. That is why they survive." The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was enough. The conspirators were removed. Arrests spread beyond the station. Quiet allies revealed themselves. The immediate danger passed, but the galaxy had changed. Later, in a quiet observation room, Elias sat beside Sarava. Stars drifted slowly beyond the glass. "You almost died because of me," he said softly. Sarava shook her head. "No. I almost died because I chose not to hide." She looked at him. "You risk yourself without hesitation. Why?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because humans learned something early on. Life doesn't guarantee safety. It only offers moments where courage matters." Sarava considered this. "My people fear attachment. We believe it weakens judgment." "And does it?" Elias asked. She looked at her injured arm, then at the stars, then back at him. "No," she said. "It sharpens it." Outside the room, fleets adjusted formation again. This time, not in fear, but in alignment. Human ships and Virelian ships shared space, covering each other's blind spots. The galaxy watched, not because of firepower, but because a human had refused to step back, and an alien commander had refused to stand alone, and both had survived the storm together. The station was quiet in the early hours, though it carried a tension that refused to sleep. The council had adjourned, conspirators were arrested, and systems were slowly returning to normal. Yet for Elias, normal had shifted. Nothing would feel ordinary again. He walked down the long corridor toward the observation deck, his mind replaying every moment of the past days. Saving Lathrix had been one thing, surviving the political storm another. But standing beside Sarava during the attack, that had changed him. Humans rarely face situations where courage and restraint mattered equally. And here, both were required at once. When he arrived, Sarava was already there. The lights from distant stars reflected off her silver-blue skin, making her seem like a living constellation. She did not turn to greet him. Instead, she simply studied the stars. "You're up early," Elias said quietly. "I do not sleep well after chaos," she replied. Her voice was calm, but Elias could sense the tension beneath it. "I am still assessing the repercussions of recent events." Elias approached her, careful not to break the fragile peace of the moment. "And what have you decided?" Sarava finally turned her gaze toward him. That humans are not predictable, and that sometimes unpredictability is strength. That is, not something my people understand easily. Elias smiled faintly. That's because humans learn by doing, not by planning everything in advance. She considered that, nodding slowly. Your people value risk in ways we do not. We avoid it, thinking safety is the highest priority. Yet, you survive. You thrive. They stood together in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Outside, the station thrummed with quiet energy. Ships recalibrating, drones repairing damage, lights flickering with renewed stability. The galaxy was not at peace, but at least it had paused. Elias, Sarava said, breaking the quiet. What you asked. It has consequences beyond your understanding. Not all will accept it. Some will oppose it. Some will fear it, and some may try to exploit it. I understand, Elias replied. I never asked for an easy path. I asked for a chance to see you, not as a reward, not as a symbol, but as a person. Her eyes softened slightly. You speak as if choice is a weapon. In a way, Elias said, it is. Choosing, even when the cost is high, is stronger than any fleet or weapon. Sarava stepped closer, their shoulders nearly touching. You speak of choice. Yet humans sometimes act without full knowledge. You risk not just yourself, but many. Sometimes, Elias admitted. We do. But humans learn by facing the unknown. That is how we grow. Outside, the station began to buzz with activity again. Delegates returned to their work, communications channels restored, and small repairs patched the recent chaos. But within the observation room, the universe felt different. Not because of ships or technology, but because two beings from different worlds had refused to stand alone. Do you regret staying? Sarava asked after a long pause. Elias shook his head. Never. The galaxy would have been smaller, emptier, if I had. She studied him, then offered a small smile, the kind that was rare among her people. Perhaps humans are not so fragile as we thought. Perhaps not, Elias agreed. And perhaps Varelians are not as distant as we believed. For a moment, they simply watched the stars, letting the quiet stretch between them. Words had been spoken, battles fought, lives risked, but in this small, suspended moment, they were free from expectation and judgment. Suddenly, a communicator beeped softly. Elias picked it up. Reed's voice came through. Elias, the council wants a report. They want to understand how humans and Varelians work together during the crisis. Elias looked at Sarava. Do you want me to go? No, she said firmly. They will learn nothing unless you speak honestly. Go. Human. Tell them what we did. Not as fear. Not as power. But as choice. He nodded. I will. In the council chamber, Elias stood again. This time not as a hero under scrutiny, but as a representative of humanity's perspective. He spoke plainly, recounting the decisions, the risks, and the moments where instinct guided action. He did not exaggerate, and he did not hide vulnerability. He spoke with honesty, the currency of humans. Counselors listened, some frowning, some thoughtful. It was clear that his words reached further than his deeds alone ever could. Humans, they realized, were unpredictable, not because they were reckless, but because they were capable of courage, born from understanding, risk, restraint, and empathy. Afterward, Sarava stood beside him. No guards, no distance. Her presence was steady. A silent acknowledgement that human bravery was matched by her own willingness to choose connection over protocol. Outside the chamber, allies approached Varelians who had watched from the sidelines, observing the events and reconsidering what they had assumed about humans. They nodded at Elias, some even offering words of quiet respect. The galaxy's perception of humanity was shifting, not through fear, but through acknowledgement of what humans truly valued. Later, Elias and Sarava returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, and the station itself felt almost small beneath the vastness. "You changed something," Scifi said softly. "Not through battle alone, but through being human." "And you changed something too," Elias replied. "By trusting me. By stepping into risk. By choosing to act when it mattered." They shared a long silence, letting the weight of their words settle. No one had expected such an alliance to form in the galaxy. Yet here it was, quiet, unassuming, and stronger than many fleets. Scifi finally spoke. "What happens next?" Elias shrugged. "Next, we keep choosing. One moment at a time. One action at a time. Humans survive because we keep moving forward. And we keep helping where we can. I think Varelians can do the same." She nodded. "Perhaps we can. And perhaps we do not have to face it alone." For the first time in her life, Scifi allowed herself a faint but genuine smile. It was a small thing, but it carried weight beyond words. Elias stepped closer. Not with expectation, but with quiet understanding. "Whatever comes, we face it together. Not as reward, not as obligation, but as choice. And that," Scifi said, "is what matters most." The station continued its work. The galaxy continued its orbit. And two beings from separate worlds shared a moment that no politics, no fear, no attack could erase. The lessons spread quietly, beyond walls, beyond systems. Humans were dangerous not because of weapons or strategy, but because of choice, courage, and connection. And those who observed carefully began to understand that when two beings, no matter how different, stood together willingly, they became more than the sum of their parts. The stars glimmered, distant and steady. Elias and Scifi watched them, knowing that the future was uncertain, that challenges would come, and that fear would always be near. But also knowing that the galaxy had seen something new, something worth protecting, worth learning from, and worth choosing again and again. And for the first time, Elias felt that the universe, vast as it was, could contain moments of trust and courage that outshone even the most brilliant stars. Because sometimes the greatest victories were not battles won, nor enemies defeated, but the courage to ask for connection, and the wisdom to meet it when it came. And in that quiet understanding, humanity and the Varelian Union began a story that would ripple across stars, shaping not with fire, but with the strength of choice. The galaxy would never forget.